I'm Elex Michaelson. This week, the issue is Trump found guilty. With us, the Speaker of the Assembly in California, Robert Rivas, to discuss that and the state's budget. Also with us, former Trump aide John McEntee, with insight on where Trump goes from here, plus John's fight to keep TikTok in America. The issue is starts right now.
Broadcasting across California, you're watching The Issue Is.
And welcome to The Issue Is. Other than the governor, the Speaker of the Assembly in California is the most powerful person in the California government. Robert Rivas is the 71st Speaker in state history. He's been in the legislature since 2018. He's from Hollister and is the grandson of a labor leader who worked in the farms and advocated alongside Cesar Chavez. Speaker Robert Rivas, welcome to The Issue Is, and great to have you in the House for the first time.
Really excited to be here.
All right. Well, obviously we want to talk about all the state politics, but there was this huge national story that sort of overwhelmed everything else this week. Donald Trump convicted of 34 felony counts, falsifying business records to cover up a relationship that was alleged with a porn star, first president ever convicted. Your reaction to that? My
initial reaction was that Donald Trump was finally held accountable. And no one is above the law. No one is above the law, even an ex-president. And he's absolutely unfit for office. We know that. But at the same time, I think this whole process has been exhausting and is disappointing. We are months away from one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime, where our presidential candidates should be focused and talking about the issues facing Americans and offering solutions to those problems, not fighting to stay out of prison. A lot of Republicans are going to say this case should have never been brought. They view this as a misdemeanor at most. They think it's trumped up charges, and they think that it might actually start to bring people together for Trump and against the Democrats. Do you worry that there may be some pushback to this, that maybe this wasn't the right case to go after him on, and it may actually help Trump? I don't know if it helps him, if it hurts him. All I know is it doesn't change my opinion of him, that he's unfit to lead this country. It's time that we start to focus on issues. Well, let's focus on some issues here in California. You are responsible, along with Governor Newsom and Senate Leader Mike McGuire, of sort of negotiating a budget deal on behalf of all of your respective caucuses. We've got a photo of the three of you meeting recently to talk about this issue of the budget. Just this week, you and McGuire came out with your version of what you'd like the budget to be, and the governor has his version. Let's start with this. What is the budget deficit in California right now? We're tackling a deficit of around $70 billion, over a 2-year period, but we're really focused on 4 areas. And that's one, fighting to preserve and protect very important, critical housing programs and efforts to not only protect funding for homeless programs, but actually boosting that number to provide local governments the opportunity to continue to do the work. But what's different about our proposal is we're attaching very strict accountability, efficiency measures, really focusing also on prevention. Once we house a homeless individual, we have to do everything we can to keep them there. The other area is education. We have to ensure that schools have the resources, have the funds to ensure that students will excel at the highest level. And then the fourth area is our reserves. We know that we have done a really good job in amassing reserves, but because this is a multi-year budget problem we're facing, we don't know what to expect in the future. But what we do know is we need to be as prudent as possible to save those reserves for when a crisis should occur, or if the situation gets worse. Let's talk about education for a moment, which is a huge part of the budget, of course, and let's make some news. So, are you in favor of a bond to increase education funding? I am in favor of a bond. We're currently in negotiations on what possible bonds will be on the November ballot, and in every assembly district, every county, every city across the state, that nearly 40% of California's students attend schools where the facilities don't meet the minimum standards. It's unacceptable. We're talking about some serious issues here, from lead-contaminated drinking water to inoperable heating and cooling systems at schools, class sizes for teachers, and we know that this is impacting student achievement. Sure. This is, it impacts student discipline issues, but it's also a motivating factor behind qualified and quality teachers leaving the profession.
And what's the status of that? Have you spoken to others on that? Have you spoken to the governor on that?
I have, the governor has been very much engaged. But whatever we move forward with, whether it's a school facility bond, a potential climate bond, we have to do the hard work to convince California voters why the investment is worthwhile. That's why I have prioritized a school facility bond, because in my opinion, there's nothing more important than investing in our schools, in our future, which is our children.
A big issue that you've been dealing with is retail theft. You set up a retail theft task force. You've had a committee focused on this. You introduced legislation yourself. It's co-sponsored by Rick Chavez-Burr.
That's right.
Who's leading this. And now you've passed legislation on this. Specifically, what does your legislation do, and what's the status of it?
Broadly speaking, what these bills do is if somebody steals from a store and they have the intent to sell these in an underground market, an online marketplace, they can be charged with a felony. And the other aspect is around aggregation, which means if it's much easier to prosecute somebody if they steal from multiple jurisdictions for the same offense. If they intend to sell it, then they can be charged with a felony.
So that's happening, and that's on a fast track.
Expect them to be on his desk within a month, and will sign these bills.
Sign the bill, be done into law by the end of the month.
Yes.
Meanwhile, there's an effort going on to try to get
Right.
Prop 47 reformed, sort of similar concepts.
Right.
It's supported by some Democrats, including the mayor of San Francisco, the mayor of San Jose.
Sure.
There's a lot of Republicans across the state, too. Do you support that idea?
I don't support it. Our efforts have been focused on organized retail theft. What I don't support about this initiative, or really, the issues I see with the initiative process, is nobody wants special interests creating these laws and then they're put on the ballot.
Do you think Prop 47 is working?
Yeah, California has led the way when it comes to criminal justice reforms. There's no going back on that. There's no turning back the clock.
Up next, Speaker Rivas plays personal issues. We are talking with Robert Rivas, who is the Speaker of the Assembly in California. You've been in that job about a year now. Talk to us about your journey a little bit for people that are just getting to know you in terms of the way you got to this job and how your family's experience really has shaped your worldview.
I am a first-generation Californian. I grew up with a debilitating stutter, which has been challenging at times. But I grew up in poverty. I was raised by a family of immigrant farm workers who came here from Mexico. I grew up, the first decade of my life in the 80s, and I lived in overcrowded housing and attractive migrant farm worker housing. But at the same time, it was that loving support from my family, the encouragement from my grandfather, who raised my brother and I. It was my grandparents. My mom was a single parent. I never had a relationship with my biological father, but it was his encouragement to always work hard, that this was a state of opportunity. And that's what drives me. That's what motivates me. I have 2 young kids. They're the future. Their generation. We have to do so much more to ensure that the opportunities that you and I have enjoyed in the state, that they will enjoy them as well. You're not going to convince me that residents today are better off than they were a decade ago. And that's the problem, is we've got to do a much better job of focusing on how we can become more efficient, how we can be more, how our state government can be more effective when it comes to ensuring that the future of this state is secure.
So who's to blame for that?
Well, I think it's all of our responsibilities. We're all in this together. And certainly we can always do a better job. We could always play Monday morning quarterback.
But I mean, there are a lot of people that are listening to this that will hear that and say,
Sure.
look, there have been Democratic supermajorities, there have been Democratic governors, and if the situation's gotten worse, shouldn't there be a leadership change?
Sure. Look, and that's my focus. And that's why, when you talk about what I'm most proud of, it's this culture that we're establishing, in the Assembly. It's about results. People want results.
Well, I want to wrap things up by doing something fun. This is called Personal Issues. This is where we get to know some of your favorites real quick. So this is the first thing that comes to mind. Rapid fire.
All right.
Here we go. Some of your culture favorites. Last TV show that you binged?
Seinfeld.
Binge Seinfeld. Last book that you read?
One of my favorites, a local favorite, it's called the Grapes of Wrath, John Steinbeck.
Oh, there we go. Favorite sports team?
LAFC.
LAFC, Dale Dale, black and gold.
Yeah.
Favorite Republican?
Favorite Republican. Well, I'd have to say, oh man, that's a tough one. Holy moly. You know what? Arnold Schwarzenegger.
There we go. And what's the best thing about being a Californian?
The best thing about being in California is this is the most incredible state in the world. You know, it's we have incredible weather, incredible people. There's no state like California. I'm proud to call myself a Californian, and that's what motivates me every day to ensure that my daughter, my son, that they're going to enjoy this incredible state as I have.
Well, the last time that we played Personal Issues with you, I asked you what your favorite song was, and you said La Bamba, and you even danced for us.
I did. I did dance.
Here's some of that. Look at that guy's moves. I like that. That's how you got your wife, right? So, you also told us that your favorite musical artist was Prince. So we've got some Prince music for you. Let's go crazy as we go to break. Speaker Rivas, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you.
And let's go crazy.
Let's go crazy.
All right. What was that move? Here we go. Very nice.
The whole country is being rigged right now.
Donald Trump found guilty of 34 felonies this week, the first president ever convicted of a crime. Few people know Donald Trump better than our next guest. John McEntee served as Trump's body man for years and was with him more than just about anybody. He'd later serve as his director of the White House Presidential Personnel Office. He's now busy as the founder of the Right Stuff dating app, where he's become a TikTok star in his own right. John McEntee, welcome back to The Issue Is. Great to see you.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so we'll talk more about the Right Stuff and all your TikToks in a moment. But let's start with the big news of the week, of course, Trump's conviction. Were you surprised? What's your reaction?
I actually was a little bit surprised. Yeah, I thought it would be a hung jury. I thought a few of them would not go along with this. But I think it goes to show how much pressure there is. You know, somebody doesn't want to get leaked as the one juror that let Donald Trump off the hook. They'll come down on you, your business, your family. I think there was a lot of pressure there. I think it's a grave injustice, and I think it will get appealed.
I think there's a lot of folks on the left who don't understand just how mad people on the right are about this case in particular, more than the other cases. And every time this case has come up, his numbers with Republicans have gone way up.
I think this case would have never been brought if the defendant wasn't Donald Trump. And it appears so partisan because it's a left-wing prosecutor, a left-wing judge in a left-wing district. Imagine if this was the opposite, a right-wing prosecutor and a right-wing judge, and they were going after Obama, you know? So I think that's why there's the uproar, and I think elections come down to who can rally their base, who can get people out. People that may be indifferent to Trump or tired of him, or Republicans that were going to sit on the sidelines might now be activated.
All that being said, you call this a grave injustice. If Donald Trump had such a great case, why didn't he testify? He kept saying he was going to testify. Why not put your right hand up and go say, I didn't do this?
Well, I don't know, but I would imagine that opens you up to a lot of other problems. You know, then it's just a game of gotcha, and they try to get you on any little thing. So I think that was probably the right move. I'll leave it up to his legal team to decide that.
In the meantime, you're very busy with the Right Stuff, and you have become super viral online with lots of videos, including lots of meals. You're the thinnest person that ever eats like nonstop. TikTok has been really good for your business. And you came out with an op-ed this week. Here it is on the Orange County Register. And it is titled right there, "With TikTok Ban, Republicans Got Duped Again." What's your main point?
My main point is this was a bill written by Biden's Department of Justice, then handed to House Republicans. This is the same DOJ that's trying to throw Donald Trump in prison, and Republicans went along with it. Not only did they go along with it, they threw it in with $100 billion in aid to Ukraine and Israel and Taiwan, and they gave the government new censorship power. After all we've learned, after all of, the suppressing the COVID information, the Hunter Biden story, we're giving the government and the Biden administration new censorship powers. That's my my biggest take.
Of course, a lot of the Republicans and Democrats say this is a national security thing. They're worried that this would basically be a way for China to spy on us or to push out their own propaganda. We had Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader who wants to be Speaker of the House, on the show a short time ago. Here's what he told me. TikTok says the Chinese government doesn't have any control over the data. They say that's not true. We don't share the information with them. Do you have specific evidence that they do?
Well, I'm not at liberty to reveal classified information, and I think the classified presentations did create a lot of concern for Republicans and Democrats.
What do you make of that?
Yeah, they always say this, you peasants at home, you don't understand. We have classified information given to us by the intel community. Well, what intel community? The ones that said there were WMDs in Iraq? They get things wrong all the time. And if their biggest concern is our data going to China, why not just make that illegal? Why are you banning TikTok? TikTok doesn't share our data with China, but other companies do. Just ban that.
So this did go through. What do you think is sort of the likely outcome now?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lawsuit now, so we'll see where that goes. If Donald Trump wins in November, that's maybe a lifeline to TikTok. Maybe he'll have a mandate to somehow overturn this or, save the company. I'm really not sure.
Have you talked to him about TikTok?
Yeah, he asked me about it. He heard that I use it a lot, and he asked my opinion, and I said it's a great platform. I was able to go, super viral super quickly. You can reach a young audience, and I think conservatives need to be doing that way more.
So you do these videos that have gotten all this attention, and many of them are you sort of tongue-in-cheek joking about things. There was this video about homeless people that got a lot of attention and really angered a lot of folks on the left. Here's that.
So I always keep this fake Hollywood money in my car, so when a homeless person asks for money, then I give them like a fake $5 bill. So I feel good about myself, they feel good. And then when they go to use it, they get arrested. So I'm actually like helping clean up the community, getting them off the street.
So was that a joke? And what do you say to people who say that's really not funny?
Yeah, it was a joke. And in the caption, it said, "This is just a joke, calm down."
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny. It's like it's an old internet joke from 20 years ago. It's our take on it. I think it draws attention to homelessness in California. 20 years ago, Gavin Newsom told us he had a 10-year plan to solve homelessness. It's like, well, it's only gotten significantly worse. And yeah, probably some of those people should be arrested, actually, if they commit a crime.
When we had you on before, you were talking about this idea of going on 50 first dates with different folks, which you documented all of it, some of them very funny to watch.
Yeah.
How is that going? How's your dating life going? Where are you at?
The Right Stuff is going great. Yes, I'm still talking to someone from that experience. And we actually have our first Right Stuff baby. They reached out a couple months ago, and I put something out recently saying, can you please reach back out because I lost track and we want to really celebrate that. It's a couple that met on the app, they're getting married, they're having a child, and we're pretty excited about it. First Right Stuff baby.
Congratulations on that. And you've had Right Stuff weddings, too,
We've
as
had
well.
17 engagements and several other weddings. I went to the first one in the fall. It was pretty
What
exciting.
was that like for you?
It was great. They both mentioned the Right Stuff in their vows, and it kind of was, one of those moments where it's like, wow, this really is helping people find each other, and it's pretty fulfilling.
We want to wrap things up with you by doing something called the name game. This is where we put the name of people that you know, first thing that comes to mind. We did this with Jen Psaki a few weeks ago. I think you may give different answers. All right, you ready?
So I'm just saying one thing.
First word, Donald Trump.
Strong.
Mike Pence.
Weak.
Nikki Haley.
Career politician, 2 words.
Tucker Carlson.
Oh, man. Witty.
Joe Biden.
Old.
Kamala Harris.
Cringe.
And prosecutor Alvin Bragg.
Slob.
All right, John. Thank you so much. We have music. This is Prince's Controversy because there's often controversy around some of this stuff. But congratulations. People can download the Right Stuff app wherever they get their dating apps. John, thanks for always being so kind to me. Appreciate it. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
More of The Issue Is when we come back. Next week on The Issue Is, conservative commentator Dave Rubin will be with us to talk about why he left California. Also next week, The Daily Show's Jordan Klepper will be with us in studio for the first time. We end this week with the celebration of a life well lived. No one loved life itself more than Bill Walton, who often described himself as the luckiest man on the earth. He was one of the best basketball players ever, and that might be the least interesting thing about him. Walton was a college Hall of Famer. At UCLA, he won a record 88 straight games and multiple national championships. In one title game, he scored 44 points on 21 of 22 shooting, perhaps the best performance in the history of college. He was an NBA Hall of Famer and a two-time champion. He was an MVP, Sixth Man of the Year. Could have done a lot more on the court if not for so many injuries. He had 37 orthopedic surgeries in his lifetime. He'd later work for CBS, NBC, ABC, and ESPN as a broadcaster with a unique sense of humor. As a kid, he struggled with a stutter, but would make up for lost time as an adult. Brevity was not really Bill Walton's thing, but viewers never really minded because he was just so much fun. One of his signature lines, "Throw it down, big man, throw it down." He said his coach at UCLA, John Wooden, was his main mentor other than his parents. Wooden taught him about the importance of team over self and the joy of investing in the community around you. Walton would call Wooden multiple times a week until Wooden died at 99. I had the honor of speaking with Walton on a handful of occasions. He had the most positive energy of anyone I've ever met. He loved people and loved making everybody around him feel special. He loved music, especially the Grateful Dead. He loved his family, his friends, his fans, and he especially loved children. When I was working in San Diego, I teamed with Walton to help some local kids. Here's some of what he told me about that and that signature line.
When you see a smile on the face of a young person, there is nothing better on earth.
Exactly. And I've got one request, because it was always my dream as a kid to maybe be a basketball player. I always wanted you to say, "Throw it down, big fella."
Throw it down, big man. One time, throw it down.
There we
Come on,
go.
Elex, let's
Bill
go.
Walton.
Bill Walton was 71 years old. If heaven exists, Walton and Coach Wooden are having a fascinating conversation right now, and Bill Walton is throwing it down. There's a lot we can learn from both of them. Thanks for watching. See you next week.